Good morning. Welcome to Morning Devotion. My name is Ryan Pfieffer, Associate Pastor, and our reading this morning comes from John 6. We're going to begin in verse 5, and we're going to learn about the important dynamic of God testing our faith in order to grow our faith. Beginning in verse 5. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. I just love this verse because we get a behind the scenes look at how God grows our faith. And we can't get around the indispensable fact that God tests and challenges our faith in order to grow our faith. Jesus does not only encourage and comfort us, but he must also challenge you and test your faith for your faith to grow. Now, what's powerful in this moment is the way he does that with Philip. He does it by asking him a question. I think what that represents is that God allows circumstances into our life that raise questions in us that bring to light our doubts, our unbelief about God's goodness and presence and provision in our life. Now, he allows us to linger in moments, maybe a week, a month, weeks, I don't know. He allows us to linger at times where he doesn't resolve things for us right away, in order to stretch the boundaries of our trust and faith in him. John 6:35 says that when Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life, whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But as I told you, you have seen me, and still you do not believe." Jesus is saying, look, I am the fulfillment of every need in your life. You can trust me with every area of your life, your finances, your marriage, your friendships, your college, your future, your past, your sin, your deepest desires. And yet he knows that there are parts of us that still do not believe him and trust him. And so he tests us, not to condemn us, but to bring out to the open those places of unbelief so he can purify and refine our faith. There are three tests in John that Jesus uses to refine their faith, all in this chapter 6. The first one is the feeding of the 5,000, which is like a provision test. Will God provide the things that I need most in my life? Number 2, the stormy sea. Will God take care of me and protect me, especially when I can't protect and take care of myself? Or will I rely on human agency or on myself to do that? And then thirdly, God tests us with hard teaching. Listen to this one. Verse 53, "Very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you." He's talking about the cross, but he's talking about it in a way that the Jews just didn't understand. It was such a hard teaching, it confused them. And when they let their confusion be known to Jesus, the way he explains it, it only actually presses them in to the ambiguity and confusion that they feel. And he does this on purpose, because he wants to know, will you trust me even when you don't understand what I'm doing? Their response to this confusion is to be offended and to desert Jesus. Where is Jesus testing you right now? Maybe in a life circumstance. Maybe it's a teaching. I feel the challenge of this aspect of it as a pastor who I've been called by God to bring the whole counsel of God to the community through our weekend services, and I'm challenged that sometimes I have to bring a teaching that's going to be challenging to really personal areas of your lives. The last thing I want to do is make you uncomfortable, but sometimes I know that I've got to let God convict and challenge you through his word. Maybe there's been a teaching this year that's made you uncomfortable. My question is, how have you responded to that? I know if you're like me, sometimes I respond by assuming the worst about God. God has overlooked me. God doesn't care about me. Or assuming the worst about the person bringing a message, that they're somehow off. They don't get it. They are not interpreting the scriptures correctly. They're wrong. And the way we can respond to those moments sometimes is to withdraw and go where people aren't going to challenge us and just tell us what we already believe. But we might be missing a moment with Jesus where he wants to grow our faith, like these disciples here. I love this moment right here in verse 67. He turns to the 12 and he says this, "You do not want to leave too, do you?" To which Peter responds, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and to know that you are the Holy One of God. You see, Peter doesn't understand anything more than the rest of the disciples who walked away. It's that Peter is prepared to trust Jesus even when it doesn't make sense to him, to not assume the worst, and to be patient and to wait for God to bring things to light. Where's God challenging you to do that? I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was growing in my prayer life and I was going through depression, and when I prayed, prayer only made me feel farther away from God. In fact, the more I prayed, the farther I felt from God. So prayer wasn't making me feel better. It was helping me realize how bad things really were in my life. And it's hard to follow Jesus when he doesn't make things easier or better for us. Have you ever felt that way? Where following Jesus is actually making things harder because he's contradicting or challenging some of your pre-existing beliefs or ways of doing things? Or he's not answering your prayer in the way that you had hoped or in the timeliness that you had hoped for? It's in these moments that we've got to press in and be like Peter and say, Lord, where can I go? You have the words of eternal life. And surrender ourselves to him once again and allow him to grow our faith and to challenge us and to let him test our faith and trust that he's going to bring our faith through fire refined as gold. God bless you. Have a good week.